We begin the story with Ray. He is telling Ken, his partner, that he dumped the gun after he killed someone and received instructions to get out of London and move to Bruges. Ray and Ken are wandering around Bruges, a city so picturesque it looks like it was plucked out of a fairy tale book. But in this, a city that looks like a postcard and smells like an existential crisis, is the perfect getaway for two hitmen looking for, what? Reflection? Redemption? Or just a pint? Ray is not impressed. Ray, a rookie hitman with a guilt complex and a knack for saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. Think of him as your grumpy little brother forced on a family trip. For him, just being in this city is a punishment worse than purgatory. He treats Bruges like it's a medieval prison sentence. Then there's Ken, the seasoned, calm counterpart who's genuinely intrigued by Bruges history and beauty. He's like the dad friend who can't get enough of museums and history. Together, they're like a mismatched travel duo navigating both the city and their moral dilemmas. They go to a hotel to find that their boss have booked them into cheap hotel, and worse, they have to share a twin room. Ray is even less impressed now. Ken's love for Bruges is contagious. He drags Ray out on a sightseeing tour around the canal. Ray feels like this experience is a living nightmare. His commentary is a mix of biting sarcasm and unfiltered humor. So Ken left him and goes off on his own. He climbs a tower that overlooks the city and aims a fake shot at his younger partner. Later, they go to a pub for a drink, but Ken says they are not getting drunk. Back in the hotel, they speculate about their purpose in Bruges. Ken thinks it's part of a mission. Ray tells him that they should wait for a couple of days, and if they still don't get a call from their boss or see anything in the papers, they should return to London. But Ken says they will wait in Bruges as planned. Ray is still bored and feeling restless. He wants to visit the pub again, but Ken says no. He then changes tactics and suggests they go sightseeing again, and Ken instantly brims with smiles. As they look around casually, Ray spots a film crew with dwarves and quickly ran over there. A mysterious hot local girl catches his eye. He quickly made his way to the refreshment table to meet her. The girl tells him her name is Chloe, but asked him how he got past the security. He says that's kinda what he does. He says he will tell her more about himself the next day over dinner. She laughs but leaves him her card. Back at the hotel owner hands Ken a message from Harry. He tells him off for not adhering to his instructions strictly, and that he will call him the next day. Ken apologized to the lady for having to write down all those awful swear words. Ray finally gets back when Ken is trying to sleep. He excitedly tells him about his date, but Ken is indifferent about it. At breakfast the next morning, Ken tells him about the message he received from Harry, but Ray says he has his date to prepare for. Besides, they don't both need to be there for the call tonight. Ray is sitting outside feeling bored again. Suddenly, he notices the dwarf walking by. He seems preoccupied. Ray waves at him, but the dwarf ignores him. Some kids with their parents then catches his attention. This picture triggers a memory in him. Ray remembers being at a confession booth, not to confess his sins but to kill the priest. But he accidentally kills a little boy as well when he allowed the priest to run out of the booth. Later, they visit a museum. Ken admires the art and contemplates life. The paintings depicts people in purgatory. Ray asks him if he believes in afterlife, hell and all that. Ken is not entirely sure. Ray rubbishes the paint and says it looks like a kid painted it. Ken says it's a masterpiece. Their debate is less about art and more about who can outsnark the other. Ray suddenly breaks down mumbling, "I killed a kid." He thinks the guilt will never go away, unless perhaps he goes away. Ken becomes the voice of reason, giving Ray a lifeline when he's at his lowest. He tells him, "You're not going to bring him back by killing yourself." That evening, Ray goes on his date with Chloe. He jokingly tells her that he kills people for a living. She jokes right back at him that she sells drugs to filming crews. The irony is, they are both being serious. Ray complained to her about how Jimmy blanked him earlier. She said he might have been wasted. Chloe then goes to the bathroom, and Ray got into a bizarre altercation with a Canadian man at the next table, who gets angry because they were smoking too close to them. Ray hit him, and his girlfriend tries to strike Ray with a bottle. Ray retaliates by punching her in the face just as Chloe returns. Chloe is not happy that he hit a woman. Ray is worried she might have lost interest in him, but instead she kisses him. Harry called and asks why they were not in the hotel when he called yesterday. Ken says that they were out eating and pretends Ray is there with him. Harry tells him to get rid of Ray. Ken pretends to talk to Ray and tells him to go out for a bit. Harry asks if they are enjoying their stay in Bruges. If Ray is enjoying it, Ken says he is, but Ray, not so much. Harry is angry about this as he loves Bruges. Like really loves it. Harry's moral code is unique. Murder's fine, but disrespect Bruges? That's crossing the line. And his obsession makes Ray's hatred of the city even funnier. Ken tries to retract his words to calm him down. Harry says that he's glad that Ray is happy, acknowledging that he was never a bad kid. Ken suddenly pieces it together that Harry is going to have Ray killed. Harry gives him an address to go and pick a gun the next day. Ken realizes he is being ordered to kill Ray. Harry tells him to inform him when it's done. Ray and Chloe are having fun when suddenly a gun is pressed against the back of his head. Eric claimed to be Chloe's boyfriend. Ray attacks him and seizes the gun. Although the gun is only loaded with blanks, Ray fires it into Eric's eye. As he bays in pain, Chloe tells Ray that Eric is her ex-boyfriend and they often rob tourists together. Ray remarks that he knew a nice girl like her would never like someone like him. Chloe is touched by his words and kisses him and then takes Eric to the hospital. She hopes to meet him again. Ray searches her apartment and finds some more drugs and bullets. Ken is at the bar drinking while grappling with his conscience. Jimmy walks in with his lady and Ken compliments him on landing such a pretty lady. He sits with his girl before Ray then walks in. He talks with Ken briefly before spotting Jimmy. He demands to know why he blanked him earlier. Jimmy tells him he was high. He looks weirdly at him and his lady, then offered them some fun drugs. They all get wasted together. Jimmy drops the most outlandish conspiracy theories ever. He says, there's gonna be a war between the blacks and whites. All the mixed race and the Pakistanis will team up against the whites. Ray says he's gonna join any side the Vietnamese will team with. Ken asks which side he should join, that a white man killed his wife. Ray wakes up the next morning and realizes that Ken has left the hotel room already and he lays there nervously for some reason. Ken meets Yuri at the address that Harry gave him. After a brief cringy conversation about alcoves, he collects the gun and returns to the hotel. The hotel manager tells him that Ray was acting oddly earlier. She said Ray asked if she wanted a boy or a girl. When she said she didn't mind, he gave her 200 euros for the baby and insisted that she took it. She hands the money to Ken to give back to him. She tells Ken Ray had gone to the park. Ken spies on him from a distance. He reluctantly makes up his mind, takes his gun out and apologized, before walking hastily towards Ray, but before he can pull the trigger, Ray pulls out a gun and aims it to his head. Ken bizarrely tells him to stop and Ray quivers. Ray cannot believe Ken was about to shoot him, but Ken replies that he was about to end it himself. What a weird conversation. They decide to go somewhere more secluded to talk about it. Ray understandably doesn't believe Ken when he says he was never gonna go through with it. Ken tells him Harry ordered it, that he sends them to Bruges to enjoy his last days. Ray asks, doesn't he know a place called the Bahamas? They asked each other where they got the guns. Ken takes Ray's gun and tells him he won't give it back. Ken offered to give Ray some money to take a train and disappear. Ray breaks down again, says he deserves to die because of that incident with the little boy. Ken tells him to seek redemption by doing some good somewhere. Tells him his death will not bring back the little boy, but he can save the next one. Later, Ray gets on the train, but he's worried about how Ken is going to deal with Harry. He asks Ken if Harry will be mad at him for disobeying orders, but Ken tells him not to think about it. Ken calls Harry and informs him of what he's just done after the train departs. Tells Harry he's ready to face the consequences. Meet Harry, the boss. Picture an angry dad who's just been told his kids wrecked the car. That's Harry, but with more swearing. His principle is simple: love Bruges and don't ever kill kids. He is furious in his study back in London after Ken hangs up. He takes it out on his wife when she tries to calm him down. Harry decides to make the trip to Bruges himself. His family tried to persuade him not to go, but he tells them it's a matter of honor. Ken puts on his best suit awaiting Harry in the hotel room. Ray is in the train leaving the city, The train stops suddenly. He's looking nervous as a policeman approaches him. After confirming his identity, he asked if he had an altercation with the Canadians. Ray is a bit confused, but upon looking, he saw the Canadian couple that he fought in the restaurant. Talk about chickens coming home to roost. He is arrested and taken back to Bruges. Harry meanwhile touches down in his beloved Bruges and meets with Yuri to pick a gun, but Eirik is there too. Yuri tells him that he never believed for a second Ken would kill Ray. Eirik tells Harry he wants Ray gone too for what he did to him. Harry doesn't empathize with him. He tells him he should blame himself for being weak and leaves them to find Ken. Harry meets Ken as he sits outside a cafe and demands an explanation why he didn't carry out the order and where Ray was heading. Ken tells him he doesn't know. Meanwhile, Chloe is currently securing Ray's release from a police station in Bruges. Ken acknowledges that Harry's actions are necessary, but insists on discretion. Ken proposes they go to the bell tower away from the public. Ray and Chloe are actually in the vicinity, even walked past them. At the tower, a rude security guard denies them entry as it is past closing time, prompting Harry to take matters into his own hands. Ray and Chloe encounter Jimmy, who is clad in a school uniform for his film role. He extends an invitation to witness the evening's filming, but Chloe declines, says that they are busy. Ken and Harry engage in a conversation in the bell tower. Then Harry takes out his gun and aims at Ken. Ken expresses admiration for Harry's integrity and honor but says he had to let Ray go. He tells him he won't fight back. Harry is touched by his words and feels he can't kill him now, so he shoots him in the leg. Eirik sees Ray and Chloe having a nice time in the square and runs to inform Harry as payback for Ray taking Chloe and his eye from him. Ken attempts to stop Harry from going after Ray, but he is shot in the neck during the scuffle. Harry expresses remorse, tells him Ray cannot be allowed to live after killing a child. Ken painfully drags himself back up the tower, jumps over and hit the ground with a heavy thud, immediately drawing everyone's attention, including Ray. Ray rushes to Ken's side, and with his dying breath, tells him Harry is coming for him. Ray takes his gun just as Harry appears. Harry chases him while shooting at him. Harry persists in the pursuit, but Ray manages to elude him and returns to the hotel. Harry relentlessly follows. Ray finds his gun in the hotel room just as Harry arrives. The hotel owner attempts to impede Harry's entry, but Ray is worried for her safety, instructs her to let him through. She agrees but adamantly refuses to leave. Ray proposes a compromise. He will leap into the canal, providing Harry with a clear line of shot, thus sparing the woman and her child from further involvement. The lady thinks they are both crazy. Ray vaults through the window, landing gracefully on a passing boat. However, Harry's shot finds its mark, striking Ray in the chest. Despite the grievous injury, Ray manages to extricate himself from the boat and flees, with Harry in relentless pursuit. The film production is abruptly halted by the unexpected intrusion. Jimmy, upon seeing Ray in that state, moves towards him. Ray cries out in alarm to get out the way. Harry shoots him again, but Jimmy also caught some stray. Ray, despite his own injuries, continues to crawl towards the lifeless body of Jimmy. Harry, a man of unwavering moral convictions, ultimately faces the consequences of his actions, compelled to atone for the tragic slaying of what he mistakenly believed to be a little boy. Ray tries to tell him that Jimmy is not a kid, but Harry is but a man of principle. Paramedics swiftly transport Ray from the scene. He vows that, should he miraculously survive, he will seek out the child's mother, offer a sincere apology, and willingly accept any form of retribution she deems appropriate. At the very least, he reflects, I would no longer be trapped in this medieval prison called Bruges. However, a chilling realization dawns upon him. Perhaps this is what hell is, spending the rest of eternity in Bruges. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for videos like this. That really helps my channel.